Bill Dunster plays Jamie Tart in the Emmy Award comedy series Ted Lasso. I'm at Notable Gold Derby, and I want to kick things off by asking you, Phil, what do you believe about Ted Lasso?
Well, I believe it is a show. I believe it's a football show on Apple TV. And I believe that it is a show that on the surface is about football that is not actually about football. It's a show that's on its surface about kindness and sweetness, which is actually not about kindness and sweetness, because it's about depth of the human experience in certain times, and also in other times it's just a bit of a laugh. I think that it has moments of real hard-hitting emotional depth, and also I think it's just lovely to be around some of the characters. I believe that it's a joyful 35 minutes to take part in and also to watch.
Fantastic. And so, Phil, this season 2, I know you're working on season 3 now. We're talking about season 2, which is eligible for this year's Emmy races. Season 2, Jamie starts off as a reality star. He comes back into the team. Like, what journey did he go on in season 2 of the show? Where do you think he ended up?
Well, I think, certainly the distance that he's traveled from the start of season 2, just the end of season 2, we meet him when he is effectively going through a quarter-life crisis. I think that he is trying to figure out who he is now that he is no longer playing football for the time being. And I think that that is hugely part of his identity. And he then he's lost everything that made him him. And he has to basically just rebuild. And he sort of has to delve down to who he is at his core. And I don't think it's a particularly fun thing for him to do a lot of the time, because people are like not 100% sure if they like him, and he's not 100% sure if he likes him, which we can all relate to, let's be honest. And so we see him having these conversations and learning these difficult lessons and trying to put these things into practice throughout season 2. And there's a lot of peril for him at times, sort of emotionally and physically at certain points. And I think by the end of season 2, he is trying to come to terms with who he is at the end of that journey, and the things he thinks he's doing well at, and working on the things he thinks he's not doing so well at. So good for him, good for him.
What do you like about Jamie?
Oh, great question. I think I like that he's honest. Like he's straight up about who he is, and the conversations that he has with Keely in particular. He's not really putting up a front, and it's ugly at times. And I think that some of the best conversations that we have with some of the closest people that we have in our lives can be pretty ugly. And I think that the irony of this person being an incredibly shut off and emotionally distanced human being, the irony being that he actually has all of the attributes that are important to somebody being vulnerable and open and sharing. And I think that he probably hates that he has those attributes, because it means that you have to be open and vulnerable and share. But I think by the end of season 2, he's getting to grips with why it's good to do that. And I also love the fact that he's a really good footballer, because it makes me look good and everyone thinks I'm great at football. It's probably the best thing.
Oh, it's so good. Do you have a favourite moment from season 2?
There is a moment in episode 6, 8, where Jamie takes a free kick, and when I read the script, I thought immediately of there's a free kick that Cristiano Ronaldo took in the semi-final of the Champions League against Arsenal, and he was sort of at peak young Cristiano Ronaldo mode, and he had the frosted tips, and as you can see, and he basically took it upon himself to win this game, because he was like, I'm Cristiano Ronaldo, I'm just going to do it. and I think that when I read this moment in the script where Jamie takes a free kick from ridiculously far out and scores it, I was like, I know exactly what I want to do. I know the reference that I want here, and I know how Jamie will then react. And it was a really wonderful moment, because you don't, often get those times when you're like, the sort of preparation, the actualizing of it, and how it turns out. I was really pleased with those three things, and also the fact that it was a big old fluke. See, aforementioned Jamie being much better than me at football. But it was a moment that just somehow pulled off, this free kick, and it was like jubilation. And again, I looked really good, and I think that's clearly what the main thing of this sport doing this is about, is the desire.
Yeah, whatever makes you look good.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, I love it. So you actually got the shot in. If you is that right? So if you'd missed, would you still have had to act like it went in? Would they have fixed that in post, or
they'd have just fired me there and then on the spot?
Oh boy,
you're not going to get it in. Listen, what's the point of you in here? You have to. Sometimes you've got to, because sometimes the shots are really difficult. Sometimes it's like, there's quite a specific thing that happens. And no matter how good you are at football, it's going to be really hard to recreate that. So there are times when there's the movie magic that they use, but generally, the first couple of seasons, it's all real time, shots and moments that were done by the actors. But yeah, they are pretty magnanimous with when things don't go right, and they're good at giving us the time that we need to mess about.
Oh, that's good. What you talked about things that make you look good, but as part of being an ensemble, I imagine a part of your role is, as a cast, how do you make each other look good and serve each other in the scenes? How do you sort of, and maybe you can comment on other members of the cast too, but how do you sort of look to serve the others and make others look good in the cast?
Well, I think that the show, the sort of creation of the show was from Jason and Brendan Hunt, and Joe Kelly, who is one of the lead writers on it, and who all have backgrounds in improv. And part of one of the sort of tenets of improv is yes-anding, taking something that someone says, and rather than blocking it, trying to go, oh, no. You go along with it, and because you never know what's going to happen. And I think that there's a real humility in that, of getting out of the way of the most important thing here is the story or the joke or the piece that you are creating. And I think that that's been sort of embedded in everybody from the top down. And I think that obviously, whilst there's a bit of improv in the show, but it's pretty much all scripted. The principle of giving focus to the other person and then playing what's given to you, I think stands true. And I think that what you see, I think, and whilst her background is not comedy, I think that working with Juno Temple, who plays Keely, is she is one of the best at that, because she's so incredibly open as a person and giving. She is really, she takes to comedy incredibly well because of that. And Brett, obviously, because he smells so good. That's probably the best. He's really good at, I don't know what it is, the elixir that he's got on. He just smells so good. I just paying off each other because of that. I'm just so, the pheromones are strong.
Oh man, the aromas just filling the room and just inspiring the greatness out of everyone. Yeah. What a big scene for you was the scene with Jamie's father after your big loss. You want to just talk about how you approached that scene?
Yeah, I think that for that scene, it was important that Jamie sort of was returning to being a child again. I think the relationship, obviously, with his father had not been good or hadn't really been that present for when a lot of his teenage years. And so when he was being told off, I really wanted to channel that sort of infantilizing look that a child has when they're being bollocked by their parents. And I think that with that, first of all, Kieran O'Brien, who plays Jamie's dad, is so good, and you really need to do little when he is doing that. And he is like, all afternoon he was just, he was like a bull in a china shop, just keeping in it, and you can really, in this improv thing of like just taking what he gives you and like playing that. I think that was a real gift there. But in terms of approaching it, I wanted to think about all those, I suppose when you're an actor, when you approach doing a character, you come up with this sort of backstory they have and the moments of their life that were important in their life, turning points. And I really tried to just imagine myself there, that sort of the shame that a child feels when, big moments in their life happen, the sort of core memories that all children have of like feelings of embarrassment or whatever. And I tried to sort of channel this thing that a lot of them were through his dad. And so yeah, it was a big moment, and I really wanted to pay it respect, and also it helped with Jason being on set, and Matt Lipsey, who directed that episode, were incredibly good at like doing their own bit of winding me up and then just sort of letting me go and giving me the space to be a little crybaby.
What was the most fun scene for you to shoot in season 2?
I think that the funeral episode was a really joyful episode to do, because first of all, it's always nice when we're all together, and also Hannah was so good in that scene. That's a really good one. But the barbershop scene was joyful because Collar and Tahib were just like, again, they had the space to just do them and show why they were really, really good. And that was really fun just to watch that. And we were part of it. And that went on for a couple of hours of like, of like us chatting shit around the edges and feeding into it. And that felt very organic and a sort of fun, harmless scene. Yeah.
What was the funniest moment for you from the season?
The funniest moment maybe was at the end of the dance that we have of Bye Bye Bye, and Collar jumped on my back, and I don't know what it was. I was stood in front of Brett, and we were like right in his face, and just like this prolonged scream. And I remember thinking at the time, I was like, this is mental. This is never, ever, ever going to make it in, because we're just like feral, me and Collar. But I also was like watching, because Brett sort of got his back to the camera, and whenever I'm that close with him, one of the two of us starts to break a little bit, just because the smell probably I just said he just has his way over me, and we start laughing, and being that close was like so silly and really fun, and also just ridiculous that I was at work and I was screaming in a man's face and it was okay.
Oh, I'm actually next speaking with Tay, Kohler, and Christo, so it'll be fun to chat with them about maybe that moment. But I was just speaking to Brett as well, and he said funniest moment for him was when he got you to have to say horrible things about yourself again.
Yeah, it's like stop hitting yourself. Anything with him is just joy.
Yeah. Here's a question. Who is your favorite member of the crew?
Oh, I like Buffy, who is our camera operator. First of all, great name. And second of all, he always has cats on his shirts. He's obsessed with cats.
There you go. Very good. When I was speaking to Brennan Hunt, he said to ask everyone that question, who their favorite member is. So that's,
and who was his?
Person who does his makeup.
Nice.
There you go.
Makeup person.
I forgot of the name.
Gotcha.
He did know the name.
I would be impressed if you did, but yes.
I can't remember the name. No, let me check my notes. No,
Got you in it there. Sorry, no.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine, Phil. Don't mind at all. Who is the easiest person on the cast to wind up?
Connor.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
He's
100%.
nice.
Yeah, and tell you who's really good at it. Tahim Jimo, and secondly Mojoli Lamore, who plays Zero and goal.
Yeah,
they're very good at it.
Yeah. Well, I'm just about to speak of Collar. What's a question that would wind him up? Can you think of?
If I make a triangle from here to here to here, whose triangle is it?
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say, and he will roll his eyes. That's a
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So make sure I'm here. Whose is it?
Yes. Whose triangle is it? Yeah.
Okay. Great. And Phil, just to finish off, what's the most special thing for you about Ted Lasso and being on that show?
I think that it feels like a sense of genuine joy that people get from it. I think that oftentimes you do, if you're lucky enough to work on a TV show, you're just happy to be there, and you're happy that you've got a job and that you are working with nice people. But I think with this, it really did feel like, oh, it's really hit people hard, and I think in a good way. And I feel like it was a really lovely thing to feel like the hard work that we were putting in sort of meant something to people, and also that I have nicked some of the socks that we use because they're really comfy. That's probably the two things that I love about it.
Good supply of comfy socks. Like the socks that you play in, the players' socks, those ones.
Yeah, and the training socks. The training socks are particularly comfy. But there's only a couple I've taken, and and I'm sure that this will now cause a major legal battle between me and Jack, head of costume.
Yeah, we'll see how far they get into the interview video to see if they pick up on that. If you get in trouble, they do very well.
Just to see if you watched it, I'll be like, did you watch it? And I'll know.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Phil, it's always so much fun to talk with you. All the best with Ted Lasso, best comedy series winner from last year at the Emmys. One of only 7 shows from the past 15 years that have won that best comedy series award. So you're in esteemed company, and hopefully you can do it again, get back to back, and
fingers crossed, man.
Maybe you can get nominated this year, supporting actor. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, just happy to be here. Just happy to be here taking socks.
Yeah. And people watching this interview can go to goldderby.com to make their award predictions. Thanks so much, Phil.
Thanks, man. Cheers, Matt.